Have you all read the case study? That's my first question to you. Have you all read the case study? You all read the case study, got the thumbs up. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so is it easy to understand, the case study? Is it very easy? Yeah. Okay, it's good. So yeah, so this one is about the charity, so a little bit of a weird one. It's always something a little bit weird. So yeah, the governance is a bit weird in this company. We'll come and talk about the governance in this company. It's a bit weird, but yeah. So, anybody got any questions before we start? We'll start in like a couple of minutes. So, just if you want to got any pre questions about SBL, about the exam that you desire to know, let me know. If not, just ask questions. Type in the questions as we go through. Okay, type in the questions as we go through. Yeah, agents and principals. Yeah, so basically, the agents and principals, in a corporate organization, the principals are the shareholders, investors, and the agents are the board of directors. In a charity like this, the principal is the donor, Eleanor. The principal is the donor, people donating money, and the agents are the trustees and the board of directors who are running the company on behalf of the donors. The technique to write a well-explained paragraph is P. You need to put a P on every page. P on every page. So P is point, example, and explain. Point, example, and explain. To get a 2-mark paragraph, you need to make your point, then write an example linked to the charity, and then explain why or say why that point is relevant. The guarantors, I don't think they're going to get, Laura asked the question, interested to explore the role of guarantors. I don't think they're going to get into the weeds of it, to be honest. You know, you don't have to be an expert in charity funding or finance to pass this examination. It's just a vehicle for them. So the guarantors are kind of rich people who kind of underwrite the charity, basically. That's what they do. So in case there's any issue, there's these kind of rich people who say, look, you know, if there's any problem with the charity, I'll kind of be a guarantee for it because I'm rich and I think the charity is a good one. The agent is the people who, is the trustees and the executive board in this charity. No, it's like the principal is like the shareholder, right? So, but actually, they've got the shareholder, so they've got the donors. They've got the donors. So, principal is the donors in the case of a charity. Yeah. Okay, everybody, we're just going to start off, right? So I'll just go through the basics and then we're going to go through the case line by line. You will not get a copy of the document I'm using, but it will be available on YouTube. So just to let you know, you will not get a copy of this document, but it will be available on YouTube afterwards if you want to watch it again and take notes. The most common question I get asked about in the exam is, can this be asked, right? So yesterday somebody asked me, can they ask about BCG? Yeah, the answer is always yes, right? So with the exam, there's a morning exam, there's an afternoon exam, there's even a third exam. So there's a whole range of things tested on the exam, and anything can come up in the examination, anything can come up. Most important thing is, most of the things, don't spend too long on the pre-scene, just understand it. It's there for industry analysis. I'll go through that. As we go through, there are some links I will talk about, which is the YouTube. So if you want to find my YouTube, if you want to find my podcast, then there are links to all these things. Either you can type www.sblguru.com, or you can scan this QR code, and I'll put it back at the end. So anything like saying, oh, you said you've got a YouTube channel, what's that all about? Again, all the links to the free stuff are available on, oh, shit. It says invalid QR code. You are joking. If it's invalid QR code, just type sblguru.com. Has it expired? Just let me check. It was working yesterday. Yeah, it works for me. I don't know why it's not working for you. If it doesn't work, just type sblguru.com and it's working. Again, if you listen to me when I said at the start, I will be providing a recording of this analysis webinar. It will be on YouTube. Okay, so it will be on YouTube. I think I said it already. So it will be on YouTube. So yeah, see the typing. I just scanned it and it worked for me, but I don't know if anybody else. The screen is displaying right now. If you are on the screen, can everybody see the screen, right? Can everybody see the screen? Is anybody else? I think if you're on your phone, it's better to watch it on a PC, right? If you're on an app, maybe, I don't know, but I think most people can see it. Yeah, the screen is displaying. Good. That's what I see. Yeah. Okay. So let's just go to YouTube, right? So if you want to watch this video back afterwards, I will be recording. If you don't want me to record you, then you please leave the video. Please leave the session right now. So I will be recording it. So you can find it on YouTube. On there's lots of interesting things. There's an interview with the exam team. So make sure that you have a look at some of those things and find out what the examiner is really looking for in the examination. What is the examiner looking for? So have a look at the YouTube channel, and I'll just search for at SBL Guru in YouTube. Now, also, I've got a podcast, and I have done a podcast based on this topic, right? So there's a podcast just came out yesterday. You will be the first people to hear it. So this is about fraud in charity organizations. So if you want to follow my podcast, you can just search for SBL Guru in, if you've got an iPhone, Apple Podcasts. If it's also on YouTube, it's also on Spotify. So it's on Spotify. So if you're on Spotify, I'll just put a link in case you can't see anything. And it's got all the links to all the pods. So that's a new one. I may get a chance to do a second one. I'm in the middle of marking at the moment. So if I get a chance, I'll do another one. But this one is probably could be very, very helpful for you when you're doing your examination, because it's going to be based on a charity. It's going to be based on fraud. It's going to be based on internal controls, which are areas which are quite likely for this topic in the exam. So I do have one course left. So all my courses have gone. There is a platinum course, which is tuition and revision. There's a revision course. The only course that's left open is this March 2025 double mock course, which is 2 mock exams based on the pre-seen case study. If you want to do this course, you need to be able to sit mock 1 next week. In the early part of next week, you need to be able to sit mock 1 on the practice platform, and you will get a second mock, and you'll get a much more detailed version of this lecture with extra notes and documentation. So that is the only course left. If you want to practice a mock, 2 mocks based on the pre-seen, it's definitely worth doing. Last exam, based on our mocks, we got about 55% of the morning exam for SBL, and for the afternoon, we got about 65% of the questions were similar to what we did on the mock examination. You can just go to my website, www.martywindle.com, and you can get this. This is a paid service. It's not free. It's paid. So, if you want to have those last minute things, I'll just put the link in the chat. So you can just go to any of these links and literally, but you must be able to do the exam on, I think, Tuesday next week. And it will be on the ACCA practice platform, so it will have the look and feel of the real exam. So you also get a second mark based on the pre-scene, which is not marked, but will be. So the first one's marked. The second one, we go through that in a live session at this time next week on Saturday. So we have like a last 2 hours where we go through the second mock. Okay, so remember that on the exam day, the people like always obsess about the pre-scene. They're looking for some nugget. They're looking for some small element, which is going to be some amazing secret information that's there. In the exam, most people who do the exam say that they hardly use the pre-scene. It's only about 10% of the exam. Normally, even the ACCA examiners say you should not be referring back to the pre-scene very much on the day of the exam. So don't get obsessed with it. The tasks in the exam will be based on the post-scene. So they're going to give you information on the post-scene. The pre-scene is really background information. It's really about background information. They will not ask a full question based on things in the pre-scene. So sometimes people get obsessed with the pre-scene. Oh, it's definitely going to be this. I can spot this. It's very clear. But actually it's not because the exam is going to be based on the post-scene. Like last time they asked about BCG matrix. There was nothing really in there in the pre-scene to indicate a BCG matrix, right? So last time they asked value chain. There's nobody predicted value chain because they just picked out a model and used it in the examination. So don't get obsessed with the pre-scene. It's much better to practice past paper questions, really. If you've got limited time, practice past paper questions. Any topic can be asked, so don't ask me, can this come up? Can they ask about budgeting? Yes, because budgeting is on the syllabus. So anything on the syllabus can come up. And recently they've been going into very niche areas and they're using models more, right? We've seen models come up more. They asked value chain last exam. Before that, they asked BCG. Before that, they asked Harman's process strategy matrix. So the promise before, you don't need to know anything about the models. Now the models are becoming more and more important for SBL. So you need to know those models in the examination, and they're going to ask specific questions like in the exam about BCG model. And people say, can BCG come again? I will say yes, anything can come. See, this pre-scene is really about the industry. You need to know the key features of the industry to have some background, and this is a charity type organization. You don't need to do a lot of excessive additional research on the industry. You should not speculate on areas to be examined. We're going to ignore that and we're going to try and speculate on some areas that might be important. On the day of the exam, your main source is going to be your post-scene, not your pre-scene. The pre-scene is background. You will hardly look at it on the day of the exam. Everybody says the same. It's 10% of your exam. The most important thing now is revise past paper questions, get onto the ACCA Education Hub and revise those past exam questions, because that technique you use is very important. I'm pretty sure you know about the duration of the exam now, 3 hours 15. My recommendation is you spend 45 minutes to an hour of planning before you start to write. So you plan all the questions before you start to write, 45 minutes of planning, and then you hit 1.5 minutes per mark. That is the technique. Smart people fail SBL because they run out of time in the examination. So don't be that person. All 5 professional skills marks will be tested and they will be worth 20 marks in total in the exam. So you need to be good at professional skills marks to pass the exam. Most people who fail, they kind of score badly on professional skills marks. Okay, let me just share my screen. This one. Okay, there we go. Okay. Oh dear, now what? I cannot see the group chat now. Let me just make this a bit bigger. There we go. Sorry about this. I'm using this Teams. It's a bit weird. There we go. So we've got these side by side. There we go. Okay. it's a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's go through the examination. Let's go through the exam line by line. So this is a charity-based organization. So they tell you in the exam what a charity is. Just trying to make it as big as possible. Okay, I'll try to make it as big as I can. So this is as big as it's going to go. So this is a charity organization. So they tell you about they're operating in this EDISA country. Sounds like an anagram. They promote. They tell you what a charity is. And the charity is limited by guarantee. So like I said, mostly rich people are going to be guaranteeing that charity for any debts. So if you're very rich, you might say, I like this charity, I'll support it. I will be the guarantor of this charity. There's no dividends in charities, but they do have a surplus from commercial activities. Normally that is then reinvested in their activities. So charities now need to be strong on commercial activities. So charities, they need to be very, very good commercially. So we've got one of my students is working for a charity, and they said like the e-marketing is massive in a charity. So definitely they don't tell you much about the e-marketing in this charity. It seems like quite basic. So I think there's potential for a question where they're asking about e-marketing, because in a charity now, the industry is all about being commercial. The aim of the charity is to ensure the general public can be confident about donations are used for proper charitable purposes. The CSB will investigate allegations that charities are not acting in accordance with charity objectives. So there's a big ethics thing in charities where money could be misused. It's very common that we see money being misused in charities. If you listen to my podcast, we talk about it, about money being misused in charity-based organizations. So it raises the possibility of ethical issues and controls to prevent fraud. I talk about that in my podcast, about ethical issues, about controls we need to have inside a charity. So if you want to answer that question in the exam, please listen to my podcast. There's also a need for charities to report on. Charities need to report on their control systems, a report on internal control and risk. So it brings up a question potentially about risk management, assessing and managing risks, but also internal controls, right? They haven't asked a question on internal controls for a while. And potentially internal audit has been a neglected topic in the examination. So make sure you know about the function and benefits of internal audit and how an internal audit could help a charity-based organization, and what types of internal controls could you see in a charity organization. Now, in this charity sector, there is a lot of competition, right? So there's lots of charities in the UK. Even in that narrow heritage sector, there is also competition in the heritage sector. So it kind of reminds me of, could they ask a question? It's going to be a bit of a weird one, but could they ask a question about Paulist 5 Forces? You've got competitive rivalry there. You've got threat of new entrants quite high. You know, it's relatively easy to open a charity. You've got the donors that are the customers, and they've got a wide choice of where to put their money. So could there be a weird kind of question about the competitive environment in charities or charity-based organizations? So it's possible. Substitutes are other things you can spend your money on rather than donating to charity. I don't know. It would be a bit of a weird one, but, you know, there always is something unexpected and weird is going to happen in the examination. So heritage is about bringing history to life for the visitors, encouraging public appreciation, encouraging members of the public to visit sites, There's lots of unpaid volunteers. We'll talk about that in a minute, okay? So in a charity-based organization, you don't have like a traditional structure. You have a structure which is based on trustees. And trustees, they provide the oversight. So do you have non-executive directors in a charity? You can have non-executive directors, but it's not unusual to see no non-executive directors. Why do they not have NEDs? It should be like, why no NEDs? The reason is because there is kind of oversight already by the board of trustees, right? So the board of trustees are directly overseeing the executive board, and they will be actively monitoring the board performance. So in some ways, you don't need NEDs. The only reason why you might want to have a non-executive director in a charity, is if you are looking to bring in some commercial expertise into that charity. So it might be very helpful if you don't have much commercial expertise, an NED who works in marketing, maybe coming in to help you to address that issue. They need to have control and risk management. So they're mentioning control and risk management again, indicates a potential question about recommending controls, recommending risk management systems in a charity. And they then again mention honesty and integrity. So there's definitely a scope for something on ethical issues, especially controls over fraud. There's a big part of the syllabus which is about how to control fraud and corruption. So make sure you know about how to control fraud and corruption. Make sure you've got those ideas in your bank. Executive management. So the charity supervisory board is kind of a regulatory body who monitor the charity. Okay, just going to get a drink. Executive management are responsible for the day-to-day operation of the business. So they're kind of running the company on a day-to-day basis. You've got paid employees, you've got volunteers, you've got donors, give money to the charity. That can be one-off or regular. As a charity, you want to try and maximize. You want to try and maximize the money you get from each donor. So if they donate once, speaking to people who work in the charity sector, they said the database of people is very important, and having a good database will be a factor in making your charity more successful. Who's donating, what's their age, what's their demographic, using big data or AI to predict whether they're likely to donate in the future. We've got the fee income, which is an important income for the charity, and that gives people free sites. There's lifetime membership. So that's a big source of income is the membership fees. So donors are basically the principal. I think if you're a member, it's quite likely that you'll have donated to the charity at some point. Okay, so we've got non-member visitors, so people can just pay on the site. We've got this guarantor, which is kind of some rich person who underwrites the charity. So there's been stories about charity work, bad publicity. Again, I'm just thinking they mentioned it a few times now. Charities wasting money. So I just think they mentioned like this issue of ethics a few times in the examination. So yeah, I think risk of fraud risk, ethics, prevention of fraud in charities, and it's definitely a current area. And when the examiner's writing the exam, it would be a something that is like in line with the industry and market prevention of fraud. Laura Holman says, what would the guarantor's motivation doing that? Philanthropy, Laura. People do things, they're not like Donald Trump. They do things because it's a nice thing to do. They're not always transactional. They're not always getting something out of it. They might want to support the charity because they're rich, and the charity needs a guarantor, and they're doing it because they're rich and they want to support the charity goals, and they don't want the charity to have any problems financially. So philanthropic. Yeah, they've got so much money. Yeah, some people have got so much money, Yeah. Not us poor accountants, right? Okay. So we've got donations. Again, I think that like they talk about email, text message, encouraged by advertising on social media. I just think that is an area that they might focus on in your exam, talking about how it can be improved, right? So I think it's like it will be badly answered because students will just go through their basics checklist on social media. They'll go through their basic checklist on social media, but what they won't do is they won't link it to charity. They won't apply it to a charity. So you'll get a lot of people writing a lot about marketing, but they won't be able to apply it to the charity and they won't score good marks. So make sure if you're going to prepare for that question, you've got charity-based examples linked to social media. So membership, we've got already. Admission fees. It seems like there's lots of potential for commercial income, and the more commercial income you can get in a charity, the better it is for your charity because you can do more things and cover more costs. So if we're looking for strategies, the thing they haven't asked about recently is in the exam is strategic options. Like, what are the options open to this charity? Well, you can look at offering products, new products to your customers in your market, product development. So having weddings in a castle is very attractive. So these are kind of areas where we're looking to build income streams. Yeah, you can turn a castle into a hotel. I think it's like very ambitious, Eleanor, but definitely you can bring in work with partners to like offer an event at the castle. It's like people spend a lot of money. I was reading yesterday that people in the UK on average spend £23,000 on their wedding. So there's a lot of income potential there. If we can do that, be a good strategy to generate income if they're not doing it already. Turning a castle into a hotel sounds like a problem. Social media, again, look it up. That research, there's lots of examples. You've got to Google it, look it up. How do we do social media in a charity? There's lots of examples if you look it up about what you can do. So there's lots of examples. Look it up. So product development as well is looking at the stores, and looking at the range that they offer inside the stores. So there could be an opportunity to get a better range of products, and that could be also an income opportunity. So can the range be increased? Can we open up shops on the high street? Can we open up shops on the high street? So going back to the expenditure, we've got operating costs, we've got the maintenance cost, and there seems to be some outside contractors. So whenever you've got outside contractors, you've always got that transactional relationship where you're doing one-off projects, risk of bribery, risk of corruption for the contractors. Again, it points to an ethical type question in supplier selection. Could that be an issue in the charity? Something you might want to consider. Spending money, the big risk on admin cost is for charities, and again, I cover this in my podcast. Some charities, there's one, a children's charity where the lady was living a very lavish lifestyle, like very high salary. They were paying for her apartment with a swimming pool in London. So this wasting money is an issue. It's a reputation risk. So there are control issues. Now, there's a part of the syllabus which talks about remuneration controls, how to set remuneration for your business, right? So remuneration controls, something you might want to look at. Remuneration committee, on what basis you're going to set the salary for the executive team. Because that's a big issue, is people earn so much salary, there's no money left to pay for the charity cause, so to speak. So there's a line on the syllabus which talks about controls over remuneration. It's never been asked in the exam. Never come up in the exam, ever. Controls over remuneration. So make sure you know about how to set an appropriate salary. It should be based on KPIs. It should be in line with the industry or marketplace, right? So key challenges. We've got a lot of things mentioned about the environment. So environmental thing, I think environmental disclosure could be a very important disclosure for the charity. Looking at how we are dealing with environmental change. So lots of things in the first part of the syllabus for SBL, they talk about social and environmental transparency and disclosure. So that definitely could be a route the examiner might wish to go down in the examination. We've got skills and expertise. Yeah, you can benchmark to a certain degree. You can benchmark, especially if there's like a number of heritage charities, really. If there are a number of heritage charities, definitely you can benchmark those charities. You can also benchmark salaries as well. Salaries should be comparable to the charity industry, not the commercial. So you can benchmark that. As you've got a number of heritage charities, you can definitely like compare yourself to others, and that's again part of disclosure you might want to look at, especially in relation to how much money is being one of the key measures for charities is how much money we are going to spend on admin costs. How much is your admin cost compared to your revenue? What's your percentage? So that's like a key measure in a charity. So it's like some companies, I talk about it in my podcast, some companies are spending like 97% of their revenue on their costs and 3% on the actual charity. So that's one thing you've got to watch out for in terms of disclosure, and providing good disclosure, especially about your financial and environmental, is very important for a charity to protect your reputation. We've got volunteers, but the good thing about volunteers is they're cheap, they're free, but they may not have expertise, they may not be reliable, they may be slightly older generation, might want to volunteer. So you've got to bear that in mind. Mentioned as well as heritage charities, we talked about competitive rivalry earlier. There are rivals for other charity organizations. So there's also, every charity is probably a competitor, not just your heritage charities. So again, could they ask a Porter's Five Forces? It would be a bit weird, but potentially they could ask it. There's a recession right now. So I was just thinking, one thing they haven't really asked about is that like a pastel question, an environment question. Actually, and I was thinking about it, like your political, you've got your government regulation, political. You've got economic, you've got recession, threat, you've got social trends in the market about people donating, like more old people, fewer young people donating, social media. You've got technology, how technology is being used to engage. You've got environmental, very important, and you've got legal compliance with the Charity Commission. So wow, it's actually, I was thinking of pastel, but actually when you think about it, it would make could make a nice pastel question there if they're asking about the environment. So pastel seems to be like a better fit for me to a question than the environmental question. So a competitive environment. KPIs, that's a bit of a shame. Like in previous exams, they've asked you to choose the KPIs, but they give you the KPIs here. The one thing I thought about in these KPIs was this magic word here that the examiner seems to love, questions about IR. Can anybody tell me what IR stands for? Yeah, so this is going to be your integrated reporting. So I think because you've got these KPIs here, it kind of lends itself to a nice question about like how we would potentially, there's a need for charity to have transparency and disclosure. So how we can use those integrated reporting elements, how can we use those integrated reporting elements in the charity Yeah, 6 capitals. Yeah, 6 capitals. So you've got like financial here. You've got your natural capital here. You've got your like social. You've got your human capital here. You've got like the social impact of the local conservation. So you've got that here. Yeah. Yeah, could be ready. Yeah, definitely. That kind of question might come up. Yeah, so 3Es is also another sort of performance measurement tool that you can use. The II is more about this disclosure, but for day-to-day performance measurement, you may use these KPIs and talk about the economy, efficiency, and effectiveness of the charity. Definitely the 3Es is also another way to provide effective performance measurement for NGO, public sector, and charity. So the 3Es, economy, efficiency, effectiveness, definitely could come up. So I think there'll be a specific question. So make sure you have a think about that before the examination, about how that can be used. So we don't have much information on this charity, but it is heritage, which is like protecting history. They've got 350 sites, limited by guarantee. And we've got the mission is to preserve sites, but the values are, unlike Donald Trump, they are going for inclusivity and diversity, not like in America where they just cancelled all of that. So I'm just thinking about this word here, diversity. There's a part of your syllabus which is about board diversity on your syllabus, right? So could that be a little hint? We don't know who the board is, right? So when you're looking at the pre-scene, one important factor is not just what they tell you, but you should also be looking at what they don't tell you. What's missing, right? What important information is missing? So we don't really know who those trustees are, right? So that could lead to a question about benefits of diversity. So should they have more diversity on the board of trustees? And it could also relate to the executive board as well. Could relate to either tier. Either tier could also come in. So make sure you know about what the benefits are of having a more diverse representation on the charity. If it's people who are all very similar backgrounds, they don't have commercial experience. Diversity can be racial, it can be skills diversity as well, expertise diversity. There's lots of different types of diversity you want to consider. And especially if they're not very good commercially, you can maybe look at having more commercial expertise. So the diversity, that would come in the post-scene. They would give you more information on who the trustees are, and then there'd be a question potentially on diversity. They also mentioned social and environmental responsibility. So it leads back to transparency, disclosure, social, environmental, and ethical disclosure in the charity. What should we disclose? What are the benefits of disclosure? Why should we disclose? So the Board of Trustees, again, it's a little bit of a weird one here because the Board of Trustees is a 2-tier board. Normally have a Board of Trustees at the top and below. Now, there's some weird things that's a bit weird in this board. I don't know whether they're going to mention it. So this chair is appointed without fixed term. So this chair is not chosen by the members, right? So that's a bit weird, right? So this chair goes on forever. Where's the accountability for the chair, right? It seems like very weird that you've got this chair that lasts forever. You've got these 5 trustees, and they're nominated by the nomination committee. Okay, but the nomination committee is also the trustees as well. So it's like there's like a bit of a conflict of interest. So the trustees are nominating their own trustees. And out of the trustees, we've got the chair who lasts forever. Only 3 is elected by members, but 5 are chosen by the nomination committee, who's also trustees. So if you were being corrupt, and I'm not suggesting they're corrupt, but if they were to be corrupt, they could choose the chair, they could choose the other trustees, and they could have 6 out of the 9 trustees would give them a lot of control, especially in relation to big decisions about choosing contractors, etc. So I think there's a little bit, normally you'd expect the trustees to be nominated all by the members and voted for by the members. Now they are confirmed by members, but it seems like the nomination is a little bit dodgy. I just don't know. It's just like my spidey senses are like ringing. Why have they set it up in this way? Wouldn't it be easier to have all the trustees nominated by the members and voted for by the members, right? That would be like a much clearer, cleaner governance structure. But this is kind of like got a little bit of the nomination committee is trustees, and the trustees choose the trustees. There's like a lack of independence in the trustee nomination, which in a normal nomination committee, in a commercial organization, that would be independent non-executive directors. Same for the remuneration committee. The trustees aren't paid, so they're not doing it for themselves, but there may be some other external benefit they might be seeking. So I just something a little bit weird about the way it's set up. I don't know whether that's going to be significant. Maybe it's just me just being weird, highlighting the weirdness of it. So the trustees kind of provide the oversight, direction. They're responsible for making sure the board of directors is delivering. Remuneration of executive board is determined by the remuneration committee. Remuneration committee's trustees. Just a little bit there. They've never really asked about remuneration committee, the principles of setting remuneration. So make sure you know what are the core principles of setting remuneration on the remuneration committee. It's all about having in line with the industry. It should motivate, attract, retain, and motivate. The ARM are the 3 elements of remuneration committee principles: attract, retain, and motivate the directors. So, but avoid paying too much, avoid excess. So I don't know. They've never asked about remuneration committee. So who knows whether they're going to do that now. I've talked about it already, but people have no NEDs. But it's not unusual for a charity to have no NEDs. The reason why you might want NEDs, as I said before, is commercial experience. It seems like quite a standard board of directors. They've got a code of conduct. A code of conduct, which again indicates ethics. Yeah, you don't need independence, Aman, because you've got the trustees, right? So we already got the trustees around, so they're kind of providing that oversight part, right? So you don't really need that independence of NEDs. You would if it was a commercial organization, but the trustees are supposed to be the oversight, right? They're removed from the board and they're overseeing the board, so they don't need to be independent. Independent NEDs. So mentioning ethics again, and they mention specifically bribery, they mention conflict of interest. So I'm just thinking there, could they be leading towards an ethic question? Tucker's 5 question is not on the syllabus anymore, Aman. It's been removed from the syllabus quite a long time ago. So you will not be asked about Tucker's 5 questions on ethics. It's not on the syllabus. Need continuous funding, so we need to raise revenue. So this indicates we're going to spend a lot of money buying the sites. Therefore, we need continuous funding. So again, strategies for raising funding, the product, getting onto our hands-off product market. Could we look at new product development like weddings? Could we look at penetration of the market, getting more young people to donate to us? Could we look at, I think overseas market, probably unlikely, but can we go into other areas like the shops, retail ventures, which is a lot of charities have done in the UK, open up retail stores. So they may ask you about strategies for revenue acquisition. When the Yeah, religious site, possibly. Yeah, possibly, but it's going to cost money. Yeah, possibly branch out to religious sites is an opportunity there for sure, Laura. Absolutely, yeah, man. Could be. So when we're closed, we're making a loss. So we're not making a loss. We're just not making any revenue. So when sites are closed, we're making revenue. Tours can be an important source of revenue for you. Again, we're looking for a charity to keep that revenue flowing in. And we've got like education, school children, social responsibility. Maybe looking at the range. Like a lot of places like open restaurants, if it's a very nice location, potential opportunity to open up a restaurant in the evening just to gain revenue. Okay, so question is, what kind of board would you say is good for charity? And the trustee board is good for charity. There's an article in the Guardian about NEDs in charities. If you want to look it up for the about NEDs, NED is not wrong to say NED. If you say, oh, we should have NEDs, it's not wrong, but it's not like automatically, oh, there's no NEDs, it's a problem. That's not the case. It's not the case, right? Because they already got NEDs is to keep eyes and ears on the executive directors, right? But we've already got somebody keeping an eye and ear on the executive directors. So it's NEDs in a way duplicating. If you get NEDs, you're duplicating what the trustees are doing. So the trustees are oversight. They are making sure that the charity is running properly. They are monitoring the executive directors. Look up Guardian newspaper and NED. Okay, look up Guardian NED. Use Google. Let Google be your friend. Right, there's one about NEDs. But I think like going down the route of NED, I think it's a rabbit hole they should not go down. But I'm just saying most do not. Anything can be asked, I'm answered. Don't ask me, can this be asked? Anything can be asked. Okay, so anything can be asked. Next thing is stakeholders. Stakeholder analysis. So I'm just thinking with quite a lot of, it's been a while since they asked about stakeholder analysis, how to manage the stakeholders. What is the model we use? What's the name of the model we use when we talk about how to manage and analyze our stakeholders? Yes, this can be your Mendello, right? So actually we've got quite a few stakeholders here. Power and interest, right? So we've got like members, power and interest. Could it be a nice stakeholder analysis thing coming in? The only thing that puts me off about it is it's in the pre-scene, and generally they're not going to dip into the pre-scene to ask a question, but I'm just putting it out there. Make sure you know about stakeholders analysis. But I think because it's in the pre-scene, I think it's less likely to come up, but they might pick out a couple of elements and ask you about them. So again, governance, the members don't seem to have that much power. They submit resolutions, but they're not binding. So again, the power, maybe it seems like they've got a lot of interest, but low power. So it's quite nice things, but the problem is in the pre-scene. They don't ask about the pre-scene. But anyway, I just put it out there for you in case you want to think about that. Employees, yeah, they are prepared to accept a lower salary. They've worked for a long time. There's quite a lot of employees, quite a lot of cost. If we are making losses, we might have to get rid of some of those employees. We've got volunteers, tend to work in non-technical roles. We've got suppliers of catering. So we don't, contractors for large jobs. So we don't have in-house expertise in our systems. For our IT systems, volunteers may be unreliable. They may not turn up. They may be like not that interested. Come once and never come again. So they're not a reliable replacement. The good thing is they are free. So I talked about it earlier that in a charity, their IT system now is very, very important. They are becoming much more commercial. So it says we've got a computer for operational functions. We allow donations on the membership, and our website is about history. It seems like to me that the IT system is very basic. And speaking to people who are working in charities, they say they're massively into big data. They're massively into understanding who the donors are, targeting, advertising, social media, campaigns. So I think here we just seem to get a flavor that this website is quite basic. That's what I'm feeling, right? That's what I'm feeling. It seems like not that good. Also, when you're taking donations, you can be using credit cards, name and address of members. So opens up a question about IT security, data breach, risk, IT controls, IT security controls, data breach. So make sure you know about that, right? Could we write about suppliers, connecting them with the... Yeah, of course. Anything, we can write about anything as long as it's on the syllabus, really. So we've got risks here. I'm just thinking a question about risk management. If you asked about risk, assess the risk, what are the two things you talk about? Assess the risk. If the question says assess the risks, what do you talk about? Yeah, Mia's, impact and probability, right? So it's these two things, right? So we're definitely going to have to manage risk in the charity. One of the many leisure activities available to individuals, the risk is they'll become less popular, reducing income for admission and commercial. So Tara is not risk assess, Aman, that's wrong. Tara is risk management. So there's two parts to risk. There's risk assess and then risk management, right? Risk management, the action you're going to take to manage those risks. Poor performance again, poor performance of suppliers, insufficient financial resources suggests you need multiple strategies of income. So again, you've got to look for ideas about, for each of those risks, how do we manage them? How do we manage these risks? Control issues. Recommend controls is a very popular question in the exam, but not been asked recently. So how do we control the quality of goods from the suppliers? What controls do we need from the suppliers? How do we control the contractors? How do we control the contractors? Okay, health and safety, again, it's a control issue. Environmental issues relates to disclosure. We've got IT security. So again, maybe indicating there potentially. Sometimes the very obvious ones, actually they never ask about in the exam. They put it in there and everybody gets very excited, but then they never use it. So, but anyway, just put it out there. IT controls, leakage of information. How do we control? What are our cyber security controls? It's very big. I mean, the ACCA, they want to show that they're modern and up to date. So they might ask that. Website, nothing in particular, except they're looking at, they talk about sustainability targets. They want to develop and grow their collections. So that might indicate the religious thing. They want to inspire. They want to involve people in their charities. So again, environmental waste, green energy, recycling, something I think you might want to consider in terms of disclosure, transparency, social, environmental, and ethical disclosure. We want people to engage. It's kind of social. Society disclosure, conservation is environment as well. So look out for that. Okay, let's go down. So financial, we're going a bit flat here. It's 8% increase over 4 years, not great. It looks like massive, right? But actually the scale is quite weird. So we can see it's flattening out. So we're about 800. The costs are going up quite rapidly. So if the recession causes this to go down to 780 and this goes up to 790, you're losing money in the charity. Catering shop, it's not a big split of the income right now. Could we grow that? Talking about strategic opportunities. Again, you might have to cut costs at some point. So how are you going to cut costs? What controls are you going to put in? Cost control. There's a part of your exam syllabus. SBL is about budgeting. They never really asked a question about budgeting, ever, on SBL. So make sure you know your budgeting, like things from your previous exams, about budgeting techniques. There's one more page, I think. Yeah. So we've got some growth for the visitors. Some of these might not be revenue generating because the members have paid the membership fee, but members are growing. But you see that the trend is falling off a little bit, and the recession might lead to go down. So maybe again, what don't we know, right? We don't know who those members are. We don't know the demographic of those members, right? They could be relatively older members, right? But we don't know what the demographic is. So again, this is things where you ask yourself, people get obsessed with what's in the pre-scene. I'm kind of more obsessed with what's not in the pre-scene, because what's not in the pre-scene is what they're going to give you more information on in the post-scene. And your exam is going to be based on the post-scene. Okay, so let me just get this up. Stop sharing this one. Okay. So has anybody got any final questions? Has anybody got any final questions to ask? So if you want more information, yeah. Yeah, so is there scope for joint venture? Look, anything is possible, right, in the examination. Anything is going to be possible in the exam. But I think that joint venture, it could be joint venture, could be a partnership, definitely partnership, working with partnerships is possible. Yeah, if we can do a wedding, we don't have that in-house expertise. So working with partnerships is possible, okay? Yeah, so in terms of not such joint venture, but my alliance, working with wedding planners to run a wedding in your castle, that's much more likely than a joint venture. Could they merge the charities? There's a lot of heritage charities. Could they merge them? What's the benefit of merging? I don't think they'll ask it, but again, anything's possible. Merger. Alliance, yeah. Partnership with education, yeah, definitely. Partnership with educational. It's definitely good for their non-financial stuff to partner with the university. So you've got to try to balance the two things, right? You've got to balance their goal to educate, their non-financial goals with their commercial goals. Acquisition of a commercial organization. It's possible. I don't think it's likely. I wouldn't really sort of think it's very likely. It's massive problems to do that in a charity, right? It could be. I'm not saying no, but I think no. So I don't think so. I don't think that most charities are not going to want to buy a commercial organization. Alliance is much less risky for them, like working with a wedding planner, working with a restaurant. It's much, they don't have any skills. They don't have those skill sets to be able to acquire a commercial organization. So just to remind you again, if you want to get more free stuff, you can scan this code, or if it's not working for you because your phone is old-fashioned, you can type in www.sblguru.com. That's got a link to my YouTube channel. I just want to please ask you to do one thing, right? One thing for me. This is a free webinar, it's something I do because people need help. All I ask you to do in return is not give me any money, but please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, right? That's all I ask you to do. And if you all like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, it doesn't cost you anything. It's free. But just doing that will help to increase engagement. I also strongly recommend, if you want to pass SBL, you listen to the podcast, right? So listen to the podcast, which is on Apple, it's on Spotify. So if you've got Spotify, it's also on YouTube, or anywhere where you get your podcast, it should be there. And if you want to, literally, I'm going to be closing this course on Sunday. You've kind of got about 24 hours to do this, to sign up for this course if you want to. This is a paid course. It is a double mock course. You'll get a more detailed version of this with extra notes on areas like marketing and charities will be given to you. There's like a much longer version of this lecture. This is like a sample of it. There's a much longer version of it. And you can do the mock on Tuesday and you'll get it back on Thursday. So you will then get another mock, both based on the pre-scene case study, both based on the pre-scene. Yeah, the YouTube channel is here. YouTube at SBL Guru, or just search for sblguru.com. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. It just helps me and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything, right? So if you want the double mock, literally we're gonna close it, I think, on Sunday or Monday. Sunday or Monday it's gonna close. I can't remember what the rule is from FME. Okay, everybody, last call for questions. Okay, well, good luck in your examination. Good luck in your exam. Hopefully what you've learned today might give you some indicators of where you can use your revision going forward in the last few days. I'm going to put it on YouTube so you can you'll be able to see the copy of this video. Thanks very much, everybody, and have a great exam.